Hello, I'm Lisa Burkhart Worley of Pearls of Promise Ministries, and welcome to Pop Talk, the show where you never know what topics might pop up. Now, are you having trouble communicating with your teen or tween son or daughter? You are not alone. Today, you're going to receive some help from a doctor who specializes in this subject. But before we introduce her, say hello to our Pop Talk co-hosts, Michelle Burton.
Hello, everyone.
And Renee Rollins.
Hey, everybody.
Well, I interviewed our guest today on Pop Talk Radio, and she was so dynamic, and the topic was so important. I asked her if she would consider being on our television show, and she said yes. She came here all the way from Houston, Texas. Her name is Dr. Jessica L. Peck. She's a longtime pediatric nurse practitioner and mom of 4. She's a clinical professor at the Baylor University Louise Harrington School of Nursing and is the former president of the National Association of Pediatric Nurse Practitioners. Wow. She's important.
Wow.
She's treated teens with mental illnesses, I'm sure tweens as well. She's responded to suicide attempts, treated self-harm wounds, as well as the emotional trauma of cyberbullying, sexting, pornography addictions, and numerous other issues. Dr. Peck has also written a book called Behind Closed Doors. It's this one. It's a guide to help parents and teens navigate through life's toughest issues. So thank you for coming to Dallas from Houston to be on the show. You're pretty in pink. I know you're a doctor, but I just wanted to tell you that. And I know you deal with a lot of parents, especially ones who are really having trouble with their teens and their tweens. I remember when my son was in high school, I used to ask him, how was school today? Okay. Or what'd you do? Nothing. Why do you think children hide what's going on at school?
Well, I think first people have to know that I am a mom who is that mom. I am the mom who is trying to talk to my kids and find out what happened and what was in their day. And, as a mom myself, when I first started having babies, I was very insecure. I came from a generational dysfunction. I had a broken relationship with my mom, and I had a lot of insecurity. And I felt like a fraud and a failure. I would go to work and coach parents. Here's what to do with your kid. Meanwhile, I don't know what to do with my own. But one day when my oldest daughter was 13, we were having an argument as I was driving down the road, which was pretty typical for us, and she threw a book at my head. We are talking a 4-volume book. And I almost passed out. It was bad. I pulled over to the side of the road, and that was the moment for me. I knew I needed a new mindset and a new skill set going forward. It wasn't enough to have this professional knowledge. I needed spiritual transformation as well. And so that set us on a journey to now I've learned so much along the way to help parents just like what you're talking about. Contrary to popular belief, kids really do want to talk to their parents. But, we just don't believe that because their face is in their phone or they're not interested. But that's how their brains are developmentally wired to be. They're trying to see, can they trust us to share those intimate things? And the truth is, our kids really care what we think of us. They care the most about our opinion.
Yes.
So when we think they're not talking to us, the truth is they're listening. Their minds are like a police scanner going on in the background, listening for what do they say about me. And more importantly, they believe that. So I've been on a mission to help parents develop new social skills to parent in a social justice, social media, social distancing kind of world to be able to do just that.
Oh my gosh, that is a lot for sure. I believe because of social media, teens are feeling increasingly isolated and anxious and depressed. How can we help them navigate through these social challenges?
Oh, it's every parent's nightmare right now, trying to navigate social media. No one wants to be the social media police. We feel like we're always nagging them about it, but we're also deeply afraid. We are scared to death of the threats that they're encountering online. And the truth is our teens are living at the speed of a smartphone. So I encounter a lot of parents who will say, my kid doesn't have a phone. But research shows us that 97% of kids have access to a smartphone. So if you don't let your kid have a phone, a lot of times their friends will think, that is the worst punishment in the world. Let me give you one of my old ones. Or you can use mine while you're at school to have an account. And kids do not have well-developed decision-making capacity. The frontal lobe that controls all that executive functioning does not mature until their early 20s. So when we say as parents, the line that was handed to us in a parenting handbook, what were you thinking?
Right.
The answer is they weren't. They're not capable of doing that yet. So, one of the things that we're learning in post-COVID research about social media in particular, that it's not the screen time that is the biggest risk, although that's parents' biggest complaint. They want less screen time, less screen time. It's how they engage with that screen time. So a kid who is playing an innocuous game for hours on end is not going to have as bad of an outcome as a kid who maybe is on for 30 minutes a day but is looking at violent pornography, or who is being bullied online, or who is seeing images that are propelling an eating disorder. It's how they use it, not how much they use it.
Yeah, you said about the frontal lobe. I was thinking about my husband and my conversation. We used to say, how many more years till the frontal lobe is developed? And we were talking about our son. I mean, really, we would talk about that, yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and really the last thing that I would say about social media is that if you are bothered by the way your teens are using social media or they're on their phone, ooh, this is going to step on some toes, ladies, mine included, you have to look at yourself.
Yes.
Usually they're mirroring what you're doing.
Yes.
And we justify ours, right? We say, oh, I'm talking to my friends, or this is work, or this is something important. But all they see is the top of our head engaged in our online life while real life passes us by. So if we want our kids to have healthy digital media habits, we have to first model those.
I want to say one other quick thing, but my doctor the other day said, we've created an ADD society. We're all attention deficit now because we're constantly, and I'm guilty, we're constantly on our phones, adults, children, everyone. It's not good.
It's so true. Our attention span is so short. And that brings up another important point, Lisa, because it gives us as parents, we are not immune to that need for instant gratification.
Right.
So when our kids have problems, we want to handle them like a digital virtual assistant. What is your problem? What did you come to me for today? Okay, well, have you tried this to fix it? All right, will you take a survey about my service? That is how we treat parenting. We don't have any tolerance for long-term problems. But brains take a long time to grow and develop. Character takes a long time to grow and develop. So we have to be confident that the seeds we're planting today will grow in another season. Planting and harvesting don't happen in that same season. So to the parents who are really frustrated, I would say, treat it like growing a pineapple. That takes 2 years to grow. I went to a pineapple farm and I see all of the workers out at this brown dirt. There's nothing, but they know. They planted seeds and they know they will grow. And our kids need to see that confidence in our eyes.
Boy, that's good. It is. And I'm excited because in your book, Behind Closed Doors, you cover some difficult subjects, don't you? I mean, like suicide, sexting.
Yeah.
That's a word. I bet it's in the dictionary now, isn't it?
It is actually. It's
Sexting.
a combination of sex and texting. Yes, that's where it comes from.
So I really would like for you to take each of those topics and explain how prevalent they are right now.
Sure. Well, they actually, believe it or not, are closely related. So let me start with sexting. Now, sexting people think of as sending images, but it's not just images. It can be words, just conversation. Right. It can be audio, voice memos. It can be photos. It can be videos. But it's become very normative in today's society. So teens are getting mixed messages. When you look at teen magazines, they're not saying, should you sext? They're saying, here's how to send your best sext. Oh, also, you can be arrested for that. So kids don't know how to interpret that, and they're always surprised by the criminality that can be involved in that. But I see it happen, and especially, again, living at the speed of a smartphone, they have that opportunity in front of them, and sometimes just hitting send before things have had time to compute through their brain. It's not a violation of their morals as much as it's a failure of their decision-making decision-making capacity. So teens will get online where predators are looking for them, and they think they may be consensually sharing information with a peer, but really they're with a predator, maybe even in another country. There was a very prominent story in the New York Times about a college athlete who looked like your all-American guy, had a great family, but once that he found out that this was a predator, that predator said, you need to pay me money and give me more pictures, or I will post these on what are called sextortion sites or revenge pornography sites. And it's really sad. This is a trigger warning for your audience, because that boy, he could not imagine facing his parents, who he loved so much, and he ended his life over that.
Wow.
Just in a
I
second.
want to say I might have read something about that.
You probably did.
Yeah, so as parents, should we talk to our kids and just warn them about these kind of predators?
You absolutely should. So many parents are afraid to initiate conversation because, for one, you think, I don't want to give them any ideas. Well, let me tell you, as a pediatric nurse practitioner, kids already have ideas.
Yes.
They're not good. They are not good ideas.
These are not good ideas.
Let's give them some good ideas.
Right.
And we must expose them intentionally in a developmentally appropriate way that positions us as the expert and signals there is an open door. You can talk to me about anything. And we have to say that over and over and over before it sinks in.
That's right.
So it's really important. I have 4 kids. My kids are 20, 18, 16, and 14. And many times they will come to me and say, I have an awkward question. These are awkward topics that we're discussing.
Right.
Kids value authenticity, so don't think you have to have it all together. Just be awkward and be willing to sit in that space with them and have conversation. It could literally save their life.
Without judgment, right?
Without judgment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had a friend whose granddaughter was literally like cutting herself. And I was like, how does that happen? You know, when I accidentally cut myself, like a paper cut, you know, it's like a traumatic experience for me. I can't imagine someone actually, you know, taking a knife or taking scissors and cutting themselves. So why do kids do that? What have you found out about that?
They do. That has skyrocketed in the aftermath of the pandemic. Part of it is being alone. Part of it is feeling loneliness and emotional pain that they feel a release for in eliciting physical pain. The physical pain overtakes their emotional pain, and that feels preferable to them. And so that's why kids will engage in burning themselves or cutting themselves. And one of the scary things is on social media, teenagers will get on there and advise kids about this. So they'll say something like, well, it's bad to cut yourself, but if you get a rubber band and some red food dye and you snap it, that will give you the same kind of feeling, but it won't really hurt you. I mean, these are, 13-year-old armchair psychologists, which can be really, really harmful.
I know that we've done a television show about bullying in the schools, and I actually found out late after my daughter had finished with high school that she had been bullied. And so I know this is a big problem, but especially with the cyberbullying right now. Can you talk about that and how bad it is right now?
It is bad because when we were growing up, we were afraid of Mean Gene in the lunchroom, or like somebody was going to beat us up in the schoolyard. But this is 24/7. They can be bullied if they're online or not, with their consent or without their consent. And teenagers, instead of being embarrassed in front of the lunchroom, they're embarrassed in front of millions when a video goes viral. And that happens a lot. I saw a story of a girl who was on a train. She had a condition called neurofibromatosis, which makes little tumors on your body. And someone videoed her without her knowledge or consent, posted the video, and basically insinuated that she had monkeypox on a train with using some emojis to say those specific things. The video went viral. Her sister saw it. It really changed her life, and all because she was just riding the train to where she needed to be. This is the kind of world our kids are living in. And bullying's more complex in cyberbullying environments. We're talking about things like catfishing, trickery, outery, flaming. I mean, all of these words that you think, I don't even know what that means, but these are specific methodologies that kids are very familiar with bullying online. And sadly, this can lead also to suicide. September is Suicide Awareness Month, and we have to talk about it. Parents cannot be afraid afraid to talk about it. Another mother I met named Tina, she had a daughter named Megan, whose daughter was bullied, cyberbullied and bullied in person. And she developed a friendship online with a boy named Josh, Megan did, and Josh would tell her things like, why do people say this about you? You're beautiful. And her mother was monitoring this. But Josh started to give her abusive messages until he finally said, the world would be better off without you. And she did. She died by suicide at the age of 12. Now, that's not even the worst part of the story. The worst part is Josh was not real. He was made up by girls and their mothers who lived in the neighborhood as a form of entertainment. Yes, and there were no laws at the time against cyberbullying to really hold anybody accountable. Now, of course, I'm sure they never thought it would end that way, but it did. And this is where we need to teach our kids the power of our words, and especially slowing down and thinking before they post.
That just sounds downright evil, really.
It is,
To have a
I
group
know.
like that's doing something like that. I mean, I guess I'm just not with it, and I don't know what's going on in the world, but that just is horrible that people would get together and do that to a poor child like that.
It is, and that's where we have to really take the narrative and not make our parenting or even just our everyday living fear-based. That's what happens. We hear about, fentanyl, human trafficking, and we just start thinking, I have to know about all of these things and protect my kid.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said for knowing about those things and fighting against those things. But if you make your mission to fight for the heart of your child and to fight for a healthy relationship that you can navigate any of those obstacles, that's a battle that we can win every day.
Yes.
It is.
Amen.
I have goosebumps now.
Yes, I do too. Well, and then it just continuing that talk and keeping it real. I mean, the internet has all kinds of dangers to it, including pornography, and it's very easy for teens and tweens to view. What can we do about the problem?
That's a great question. We have to talk about it. It's not a question of if your child will be exposed, but when they will be exposed. I share a story in Behind Closed Doors of my daughter being exposed in the 5th grade.
Wow.
Now, this was a classmate who was watching a cartoon video that had a pornographic video embedded in it on YouTube, and she described this to my daughter. Now, thankfully, I had said something like this to her before. I told her, people have screens everywhere. And at some point, you're going to see something on a screen that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. You won't understand what it is, and you're going to maybe even feel like you did something wrong by looking at it. If that happens, come and talk to me. I didn't tell her all of the nitty-gritty, horrible details. I just gave her that prompt, and it was enough for her to come. Now, what parents need to know, Lisa, is that pornography today is nothing like it was 20, 30 years ago. And even the pandemic accelerated the user production of and user generation of pornography to something called Pornhub, which is basically like social media for pornography. It's estimated that 1 year's uploads to that site would fill the memory of every smartphone on Earth.
Wow.
And there is no regulation. And it's very normative. Kids, when they're surveyed, say, yeah, that's a great way to learn about how to have relationships. But it actually affects their brains like opiates. When we do neuroimaging and we look at their brains, it lights up in the same way. And after a while, they don't get the same response. So it's not more, they want different. And this is how kids get in trouble with violence or other really, really awful things. But again, talking about it early and often is so important.
Yeah, it is normative because you hear talk show hosts talking about it like, I was looking at porn last night. It's like it's a normal thing to do and there's nothing wrong with it. So that's what they're teaching the kids who watch these programs. It's it floors me. I guess it's my age, I don't think it's normal. And now another thing that's becoming normative is this whole thing with gender identity and gender confusion, and kids are questioning the way God actually designed us, male and female. So how much do you deal with this problem, and what is going on with the kids when they come to see you and they're confused about whether they're male or female?
Well, I've been in pediatric practice for 25 years, and I used to never see this, probably the first at least 15 years of my practice. But now it's something I see every single day. There is not one day that I don't go to a clinical environment that I don't encounter a kid who is questioning or struggling in some way. And the latest statistics say that 1 in 5 kids in Gen Z identifies as struggling with their gender. Now, it's really hard because we're having this national shouting match about it. You know, as grown-ups and adults, we have very passionate opinions. But in the middle of that, what I see as a nurse are very real families with real needs in real time. And these are very complex issues that have to be addressed on an individual basis. And a lot of times parents, especially parents who have faith, who are Christian parents, they're so afraid to disclose that struggle or to get any kind of help. They're afraid their child will be ostracized, will be judged, will be kicked out of the church youth group, or, you know, and we're already worried about their mental health because even people who disagree about why this crisis is occurring, we all agree that they're at increased risk for anxiety, depression, suicide, just all kinds of things. So I think it's important for us to meet those families at the point of need and to realize these are real people that we're talking about, and it is a real issue, and they need complex care. They need spiritual support. They need healthcare support. They need social support. They need support as they're going through that.
So good.
And there are a lot of broken families today, either through divorce or abandonment. How is that affecting our kids?
All of those things are affecting our kids. And in Behind Closed Doors, I cover the 12 most common things that I see in pediatrics. And you have to understand, as I'm sitting at the clinic looking at my schedule, it doesn't say this child is depressed because their parents are going through a divorce, would like to talk to you about it. It says they're having nightmares. They're having trouble eating, that, you know, they're having a headache. And we have to understand that psychological trauma processes itself through our body in a physical way. And it gives us very real physical symptoms. So that's what I'm seeing. Way down the road, they're coming in because it's gotten to the point where it is manifesting as physical symptoms. Divorce in particular impacts more than half of kids in the United States. But the thing to remember is that we know a lot about resilience in kids, whether they face divorce or any other kind of trauma. And the number one predictor of resilience is meaningful connection to one adult. So if you're divorced and you think, my ex is, you know, just a terrible influence or it's an awful situation, you are enough. You can be enough. God can redeem that and restore that. So one of the first things that I coach parents on in resilience is thinking about their child's strength. So you can think, if you're listening, about your oldest child just for right now, because my youngest always says he's my favorite. So we'll go with the oldest here. But think about, can you tell them in times of trouble, what is their greatest strength? What do they bring to the table? How do they serve your family? And if you can't answer that in about 10 seconds, neither can they. And they don't know what their strength is. My oldest, her strength is hospitality. When somebody has a bad day, she is going to make their bed like a hotel, put a chocolate on there, a little note, you know, and it's amazing how just little gestures like that can change your whole day. My youngest is the comedy show. He may or may not have done a reenactment of Ben-Hur with an office chair. But, you know, we were all laughing. So just starting with that, thinking about what is their strength and calling that out and helping them to feel confident and competent to participate in healing is really great.
That is so good. My oldest son always made me laugh. So that's just, he did. I said, you always make me laugh. You just find a way. It's just a dry sense of humor, but he made me laugh.
We need that. Well, I say laughter is the best medicine. We need more of that in today's world for sure.
Yes. I know that you did answer a little bit on, for parents who are listening, what are some of the warning signs to look for in our teenagers? And I think that a lot of that is something that we really, as parents, need to be looking for, those warning signs. Can you tell us just a few more that you think would be?
Absolutely. Any acting different behaviors, when something just seems off, if they're sleeping more or sleeping less than usual, if they're engaging with friends that you don't know and they're being secretive about that, if you find that they're not being truthful about things, a lot of times we feel so angry as parents. We immediately respond with anger. And what our kids don't understand is that we're really not angry with them. We're angry that something is threatening to derail their future. But our kids don't differentiate that. So when your kids disclose something to you, or you discover something like a vaping device or something like that, if you can just practice calming down, not responding from a place of anger and saying, this is hard. We're going to have some difficult conversations ahead, but the first thing I want you to know is I love you no matter what. And we will get through this together. That could change the trajectory of their whole life.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, and we're talking about how to have just an honest conversation, and you really just said that a second, just now with Michelle, to take a step back and really listen.
Yeah.
And see what's happening with them, because I think about my own children and my grandchildren. What do they say so many times? Look at me, Mom.
Yes.
Look at me. And they do. And children want that. And so they're ready. They're hungry for our attention. And we just need to have that kind of insight, don't you think?
I completely agree. And if you think about toddlers saying that, look at me, teenagers do that through social media.
Yes.
It's
That's
all
true.
about me.
Right.
Look at me, like me, follow me, listen to what I'm saying. And that is my biggest coaching point to parents, is listening. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should be listening twice as much as we speak.
Yes.
And we need to listen with our face. We have our faces in phones. We have our faces in so distracted in everything else that we're doing. We really need to listen with our face.
Gosh, that's good.
Well, thank you so much. I wish we had more time. This is such an interesting topic, and I know people are really gaining a lot. I've really realized what I did wrong.
There's
they turned
always
out
grace.
okay.
There's always grace for tomorrow.
Well, thanks for being here. And Dr. Jessica L. Peck's book is called Behind Closed Doors, a guide to help parents and teens navigate life's toughest issues. If you would like to reach out to Dr. Peck for anything, you can find her at her website, Dr. Nurse Mama.
That's
Dr. Nurse
me.
Mama.
That's me.
I like that, don't you? .com. DrNurseMama.com. Or if you would like her to speak at your event, reach out to her publicist, Mark Bretta. His email is mark@jonesliterary.com.
And we'd love to hear from you as well. You can email us here at Pop Talk and Pearls of Promise Ministries at info@pearlsofpromiseministries.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Pop Talk Media or at Pearls of Promise. We're also on Instagram at Pop_Ministries. Hey, check out all our past television shows on YouTube channel. We also have something really exciting. It's our annual Level Up Women's Conference coming October the 21st. You want to get signed up right now on Eventbrite.
And a big thanks to the sponsor of today's program, Prestige Development Properties, LLC. If you have a project that needs a commercial developer, Prestige Development Properties is the place to go. You can email prestige at Kerry, Kerry, at prestigedev.net.
And that is Pop Talk for today. We're just ordinary girls.
Who God turned into pearls.
Have a blessed week, everyone.